Oh boy, here we go. Going live, and now it says you're live. What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here, Cheesehead TV, coming to you live later in the evening, about almost 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time here in New York City on a Tuesday, just over a week and some days until the NFL draft, the very unusual 2020 player selection process for the NFL. A lot of talk today. Prompted by various mentions of Rashawn Gary last year and the possibility of the Packers taking a quarterback at number 30, I think due to somebody's mock draft. And the Packers had some reported meetings with quarterbacks. Look, I understand the urge and or desire to take a player that can help you now. That is the big chorus I get in my mentions whenever this topic comes up. And I totally get it. And I am not sitting here telling you that that's a bad way to go or not something they should do. But I will say there's nothing wrong with long-term thinking with your first-round pick. And I used Rashawn Gary as an example where they picked a guy 12th overall who barely played and still won a lot of football games. Now, if they had picked someone else, may they have won a few more? Could they have gotten over the hump against San Francisco in the NFC Championship game? I mean, I doubt it, but you never know. But that selection of Rashawn Gary was long-term thinking. Yes, he did not see the field a whole lot last year, needs to be on it a hell of a lot more next year. But in their estimation, he was their best prospect and or bet long-term. No doubt the Smiths were incredibly productive last year, and they never came off the field unless Za'Darius was getting his little tweaks that would take him off from play to play. But it's still a smart decision when you look at the lives of these players, their contracts, the attrition rate of the game itself. I mean, a lot has been written and said about how miraculously healthy the Packers were last year. You can't expect that to happen season in and season out. If and when injury is to strike at outside linebacker, lo and behold, you have a guy in Rashawn Gary who can step in and who will undoubtedly be mixed in more and more as this upcoming season goes along. I understand not wanting to take a quarterback, but if they do end up taking a QB at 30, and I'm not saying they will, but if they do, it's because Brian Gutekunst has made the determination that that is the guy that they can ride and die with after whenever Aaron Rodgers is moving on. And there's nothing wrong with that. That is what a good general manager does. And I'm not advocating for it. I'm not saying they have to do that. But it's understandable, given the position Gutekunst finds himself in. That's all I'm saying. Hello to everybody in the comments. How you doing? Real DK, thanks for the super chat. Any clarity whatsoever on the Lincoln Riley tweet? No, not that I've seen. I think the whole tweet was Packer thinking emoji, and hashtag something, I can't remember. But yeah, it wasn't, it was very cryptic. No idea. I haven't seen any explanation for it. Let's see. Can we stop acting like Jordan Love would be an awful pick? I agree, Joey. I don't think he'd be an awful pick at all. If in their determination, he's the guy. And that comes down to the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And when it comes to the draft, especially at the quarterback spot, the beholder is in one man, and that is Brian Gutekunst. No one knows at this point when Aaron Rodgers' last snap will be. Hopefully, will not be this year. It's good to get a quarterback. I mean, trust me, I'd much rather see an offensive weapon for Aaron Rodgers, just personally, because I want to see him go to town, tear it up, and win another Super Bowl ring. No doubt about it. But like I said, if they select a quarterback, I'm not going to be upset about it. To your point, yes, everybody is a play away from their career ending. Aaron Rodgers is no different. We've seen him go down a couple of times in the last 5 years. I don't think it's the world's worst idea to draft a quarterback. I just don't. How much more difficult is the job of general manager when you cannot see players in person? That's a really good question, Dustin. I think for the most part, he's seen enough of the guys that will be, especially early on. He's seen all their tape, obviously. He doesn't get to go on the road as much as when he was a scout. So that is the one place where the guys who are at the combine probably have a bit more of a leg up, so to speak. And the guys at the Senior Bowl, because he has seen them on the field, especially the Senior Bowl week. He left early. I think he got back Friday that week. But that's when the bulk of the evaluation goes on, is during practices. There's no doubt about it. It's a little bit more difficult. Every scout you ever talk to, anyone worth their salt anyway, will tell you, especially at quarterback, you can't really make that determination of their throwing ability, the arm strength, etc., unless you see it in person. Your tape can tell you a lot, obviously, but every good scout wants to be in the room with the guy, so to speak. Mark, thanks for the super chat and good question. Would the NFL play games without fans present? I think it's a possibility, but at this point, and I was talking to a friend this afternoon about this very subject, it's such guesswork at this point, just because we have no idea day to day what the landscape is culturally, economically, what the stay-at-home orders will be. I know right now, I think Lambeau Field is closed through April 24th. I got to think there's a good chance that gets extended. But they're talking about the possibility of, quote, reopening the country. What does that mean? How does that work? I've seen people kind of putting out the ideas of specialized, centralized areas where teams would live away from their families and away from fans, and they would play games in stadiums that had no fans. All of these, I think, are contingency plans for the idea that if football season creeps up on us, say we get through the summer and we're still, for the most part shut down, I think people are trying to make sure sports still happens. But I just think things are so unknown, and we're on such a day-to-day basis at this point. It's really folly to even kind of guesswork out into the air. And I keep seeing headlines, and so-and-so has a hunch that there won't be a season, or so-and-so says they won't play till 2021. And then on the other side, I see lots of, college football coach X says in his gut he thinks there'll be a season. And it's like people on both of those ends of the spectrums they're dealing with some facts, but mostly it's guesswork. So it's not worth a whole lot, to me anyway. And hell, it's my YouTube channel along with Corey. So that's my opinion. What else we got? A lot of super chats. Thanks, guys. Nicholas, where would our first 3 2019 picks fit in your 2020 draft board? Whew, Nicholas, that's a bigger question for much smarter draft people than myself. It's funny I think Jay Sternberger, I've seen people that I do trust, both in the league and in the media, say that Jace would be tight end number 1 in this class. So I'll take that. Absolutely. Where Rashawn Gary or Darnell Savage would fit in, I can't say. I think Elton Jenkins would be right on top of the leaderboard for guards, but that's just my poor guesswork. Boomer, thanks so much for the super chat. Very generous of you. Tay Khan, thank you for the super chat. I had a debate with a buddy, so you tell me, is Greg Jennings the best receiver Rodgers has ever played with? Woo, doggy. I mean, it's the trio, right? I know he played with Donald Driver, who is the all-time receiving leader for the Packers, but he is not the most gifted / best receiver Rodgers has played with. It's the trio of the debate will always be Greg Jennings, Jordy Nelson, and Devontae Adams. Like, that's the big three, right? I think obviously he was most productive, had the longest kind of tenure, so to speak, with Jordy. I think he had the best chemistry with Jordy. I think Greg is probably the most technically, as far as doing the little things, route running, ability at the line of scrimmage. And I know Devontae's an assassin off the line. But I think all skill-wise, every skill that a receiver needs in the league, I think Greg was probably the best in that regard. I think Jordy had the best connection with Rodgers, and I think Devontae is probably the most physically gifted of the three. Sounds weird to say, but I do think he's probably the best athlete, and like I just mentioned, he's the most incredible at getting off the line of scrimmage. Probably not as good a route runner as Greg Jennings was. I think they each had their strengths. I know that's a bit of a punt on the question, but I think Greg certainly has pelts on the wall, and the case can be made that he was the best that Rodgers has worked with. No doubt about it. Jitsu, thanks so much for the super chat. Saw your retweet about Packers meeting the quarterbacks the most. Very, very interesting. Yeah, that was from our buddy Cody, who is on board now doing video stuff for us. If you haven't checked out the prospect videos here on the YouTube channel, make sure you do that. Cody's doing a great job of putting those together. He had retweeted that I know people track visits, and in this case, this year, it's video conferencing visits. And the Packers have talked the most with corners. Now, yes, they're clearly doing their work, and there's no doubt that they'll be looking at them. That doesn't necessarily mean that they'll end up taking a corner or lots of corners. But yeah, it's a bit of an interesting nugget. We've talked a lot here on the channel about that being a sneaky need, right? Tremont probably moving on. Kevin King entering his last year of his deal. Can't pay everybody. Past those first starters, you've got a lot of unknowns. It wouldn't surprise me if they took a corner. Nathan, thank you so much for the super chat. He's a great guy, but I keep thinking Murray at 30 would be a mistake. Doesn't cover well. Inside linebackers don't improve defense as much. Quarterman from Miami, day 3. You know what, Nathan? I would not be surprised if the Packers thought the exact way you do. I'm going to quibble with your coverage analysis there. I think some, not all, but some of what you see on tape from Murray in regards to guys getting open and or his being victimized in coverage is the product of a pretty predictable set of calls from the defensive coordinator. That's not to say that doesn't happen in a lot of college programs, but I don't think he was really allowed to utilize and showcase a lot of his ability in that regard. That's just me. That's just my opinion, but I totally hear what you're saying. And like I said, I would not be surprised at all if the Packers agreed with you. Mark, thanks so much for the super chat. Aaron says he's growing his hair out and wearing the mustache. Thoughts? Now, here's my question. I saw the social media stuff. I saw it on his Insta, and of course the Packers tweeted it after the polls were up and the results were in. Has he said he's going to do it, though? I mean, I've seen that he's tweeted it, and, the Instas are out there. I took it as, it's a fun poll and everyone's talking about it, but is he going to commit? Is he really going to do it? I don't know. I told him to call me. I don't know if you saw me on Twitter. Yesterday I said, call me. Today I followed it up with a GIF. I'll probably follow it up with a new GIF every day. Aaron, call me, buddy. Ayuk would be a great pick at 30. I agree. I like that kid a lot. And in fact, that's our latest prospect video. Make sure you check that out. And I really like him. I think you talk about knowing what to do with the football in your hands. That kid certainly knows what's up. I think he'd be a fun chess piece for LaFleur and Rodgers in that offense. Please don't let Detroit land Tua. We don't need to see that kid twice a year. Kevin, I'm with you, man. I certainly think there's something to the smoke around the Dolphins wanting Herbert instead of Tua. There's a chance maybe Detroit trades down out of 3 and still lands somebody like Tua. Stafford, they could easily get out of his. I know he signed a big contract extension a couple years ago, but this next upcoming year, not this offseason, but next offseason, they can get out of it without any penalty. So if they were going to take a guy and let him sit a year, this would be the year to do it. And Tua at 3, that's a possibility. We've seen guys, a lot less talented and a lot less accomplished get drafted at 3, or even in the top 5. So we'll see. I'm with you, though. I don't want him anywhere near the division. Question, the Packers draft hat says go Pack go on it. Seattle has 12th man. What does the Bears hat say? We still suck. Checks out, John. I think that's viable. I think that's absolutely correct. Mims and Higgins has Goody written all over them. Fast, tall, might as well make us Green Bay Giants. I hear you. I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see if they go wide receiver there at 30, because I think that's where they'd have to take those guys. I'm still of the opinion that I think they'll wait on wide receiver because of the depth of the class. But who knows? Maybe they want to double up. They take one at 30 and 60, whatever. Man, that's a possibility too. I mean, it's all wide open. But I do think they'll look for probably a big body along either line at 30 first. And if the guys they like or value there aren't there, then maybe they look at wide receiver. But we'll see. Like I said, I suspect they wait, though. Let's see. You talk about the importance of players knowing the offense. Does that hurt if they let Aaron Jones walk and draft a running back? Not necessarily. I mean, yeah, you want to know the offense, obviously, but you still got another year of Aaron Jones, even if you don't sign him to an extension, which I think they will. But yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, but And that is one of the reasons Dexter Williams couldn't get on the field, which is why I think they probably will draft a running back this year. But you got to get one who is able to absorb the playbook and the checks and the stuff that the quarterback wants at the line of scrimmage, et cetera, the protections, everything. And Dexter had real issues with that last year. So maybe he makes a big jump, and maybe that's their plan after Jamal Williams. I tend to doubt it. Apologist here. I can't understand people dogging you for sharing your opinion on various topics other than the Packers and bashing your private life. It's uncalled for. People stink. Duke, that's very nice of you. I know what you're talking about. There was a lot of tweets headed my way overnight and this morning. It's fine. Look, I get it. I get that I'm not everyone's cup of tea. I get I'm abrasive. I get that. I get why people don't like me. It's fine. And I saw Corey getting into it with some people today. I saw Tom Grossi talking about it. And look, I get why people decide to come after me. It's cool. Like I always say, I'm an acquired taste. They just haven't acquired it yet. It's fine. There are way too many draft quote experts on NFL Twitter. Joey, you are not lying. I tell you what, I used to go all in on the draft. I used to watch tons of tape, used to do mock drafts. I used to rank the players, etc. But it just gets so drawn out and it's so oversaturated. And there are so many great draft guys. I mean, you talk about there are way too many experts. That is true. But there are a lot of really good and really talented draft nicks and draft people, draft evaluators out there. So it's like, these guys watch these players all year long and then, put together their reports and their draft guides, etc. I mean, that was not the whole reason, but one of the reasons we started doing the draft guide back in the day here at Cheesehead TV is it allowed people who were really interested in it and really obsessive about it. It gave them an outlet, right? They're Packers fans like you and I, and that's just not my bag, man. But yeah, so there's no reason for me to go all in on the draft when we've got such a plethora of really talented people out there, including here at Cheesehead TV. If you haven't yet, it's not too late to get the Cheesehead TV draft guide. Take a look at those prospect videos. It gives a real good highlight feel for what you would get if you purchase the guide. It is outstanding. It is some really, really good stuff. It's gorgeous to look at, and the information is top-notch. Highly recommended. So one or two more here, guys. Do you think the Packers still sign Aaron Jones to an extension if/when they win the Super Bowl this year, assuming the season is played? Yes, I do think, mostly because if they do end up winning the Super Bowl, Aaron Jones will be a large reason why. There's no dismissing how much more effective the offense is, not only at moving the football, but putting points on the board, which is the name of the game. The difference between when he is on the field and off of it is night and day. Like I said, I do not doubt for a second that they will most likely draft a running back, but I think they will sign him to an extension, regardless of if they have a losing season, if they win the Super Bowl. I think he will be in their plans. What position did Gutekunst play in college? Well, yes, that was my final question during trivia today. He played defensive back. He hurt his shoulder during his second year, and he switched to coaching. He was a linebackers coach, and then UW La Crosse won the Division III national championship. They went 14-0 when I think it was '95. But yeah, he played defensive back. Are you sick and tired about friends and family not caring about what the 90-man roster looks like in April? Then come over to the Packers chat. That's good stuff right there. My girls like to play a game of turning on random bits of this chat, extra cheese, just any extra cheese, and hearing me talk for like 3 seconds and go boring because they don't care. They just do not care whatsoever. Are there any players who remind you of Sterling Sharpe playing now? Michael, that's a good question. A poor man's Sterling Sharpe in the way he moved and fought for the ball, etc., was James Jones. He was pretty similar. But like I said, he was a very poor man's Sterling Sharpe. Sterling was a beast and could get a lot more separation than James could. But they were similar play styles. It's weird, though, because it's hard to compare because guys now are so much more developed physically. I mean, obviously there are big, strong wide receivers, and that is kind of the norm now, especially at the number one spot. Sterling was just different. Like, he was so strong and fast. He was bigger and stronger and faster than everybody on the field. That just doesn't really happen now. Most of these guys are big and strong and fast, but yeah, he was a different breed. It was crazy too, because Favre would just feed him ridiculously week after week. 17, 18, 20 targets a game. It was nuts. But, he was so good, it made sense. Like, why wouldn't you? Jalen Rager's, quote, video pro day, quote, 40 time was sub 4.3. Yeah, take that with a grain of salt, though. I mean, it's a pro day, and his own trainer dude is doing the timing. And there's other people like watching the video doing the timing, but they don't have the angles. So take all that with a grain of salt. But I agree. I think LaFleur would love to coach the kid, no doubt about it. What receiver do you feel on the current roster has what it takes to line up opposite Adams? Oh, 100% Alan Lazard. I know there are people I respect, people whose opinion I definitely seek out. Ben Fennell comes to mind, who thinks he's not better than a 3 or 4. I think he's absolutely got what it takes to be a 2 in the NFL. And I think he could 100% line up opposite Adams for a full season and put up some really good numbers. Now, that said, should they look to augment? Yes, of course. Not only at that position, but the overall talent pool at wide receiver in general. But I do not doubt for a second that if all they do is, say, draft one wide receiver, maybe a running back, and then they're on their merry way, as far as skill position players go, I do think they could put up a ton of points with Lazard as their number 2. No question about it. No doubt in my mind. Anyone I'm dying to have on Nagler's Never Right or transplants? I'd love to have Coach on again. I'd love to have him in studio if we ever go places again. He did say he'd come back on when I talked to him at the Combine, so that's encouraging. Aaron Rodgers is the obvious answer here, though, right? Look, I've been asking Aaron for an interview every summer for like a decade. And every year, PR has just dismissed it out of hand after talking to him with the request. Got to go through proper channels. And he's always just dismissed it. But this past year was the first time he didn't dismiss it right away out of hand. They basically gave me a we'll see. So that's the start of the thaw, I think. Maybe, possibly by 2027, I might get an interview. We'll see. All right, everybody, I'm going to have to jump. Thank you so much for all the questions. I'm sorry if I couldn't get to yours. A ton of you guys here, 165 of you, chatting up some Packers late April, mid-April. A little over a week until the draft. Can't wait. We can put all the speculation to bed and welcome new Packers to the green and gold. Please hit like, hit subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family. Cheesehead TV, we're devoted to Green Bay Packers fans worldwide. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great night.